All right, we'll go ahead and get started because I know it's 2 minutes past 2 right now. We were supposed to start at 2. With only a couple of you on here, feel free to chime in whenever you'd like or to ask any questions. I hope that you've had a chance to look at the first couple recordings that we had from the first few meetings. I thought they went really well. We covered a lot of the information that we'll cover again here today, but maybe in a little more detail in some areas and a little less in some others, but we'll get through it nonetheless. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen right here. Looks like a bunch of people hopping in now. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. If I can find my controls. Where did they go? There it is. Share screen. And we'll go over there. So the first place I want to bring you guys is to the cps.team site. I hope that you all have had a chance to play around with this and take a look at all the information here. And just to real quickly navigate it, this language right here is from the press release that went out from CPS back in 2018, but then again, more recently this summer with the renewed partnership. Some other things to highlight here. If your athletes are looking to log in, you can see that up at the top. For you coaches and athletic directors, there's the coach login right here. Most of you have been already given a Team Edition account for your respective schools. So, if I were to get out of here, it'll bring up the login information. If it says that an account's already been created for the school, just hit the password reset. That should get emailed to you to your CPS email address so that you can log in and see all the information there. If you're interested in having myself or one of our other speakers come out to your school and host a recruiting informational night, it could be an end of the year, banquet or awards, could be a preseason parent meeting. I know both those things are going on right now with the conclusion of the fall sports and winter sports kicking off right now. So if you'd like one of us to come out there and host one of those sessions, there's this button right here, and that should bring you to a Microsoft form. Just some real simple info to help keep us organized, and we'll reach out to you to confirm the date and time of that. Other things that are on here, if you go all the way over to the left, and this is probably the most important thing, the thing that gets me up and excited in the morning, is the All-In Award information. So for those that don't know what the All-In Award is, I'll go ahead and open up this part of it. The All-In Award gives one of the athletes that you nominate access to our MVP membership for free. And that MVP membership is valued at somewhere north of $3,000. It varies a little bit depending on what grad year you are, but they'll receive all the benefits of this, the profile, education and guidance, the coach connections, the recommendations, the support, the college funding, smart track consultation, the ACT, SAT prep courses. So they receive all of that for free. And if you guys haven't done it already, please, 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 up here at the top where it says nominate, click on that and enter in the information of a deserving student athlete. There's no limit to them. Our target number for the school year is 400. So if you do some quick math, 400 times the $3,000 plus, you're talking about over $1 million that we're trying to get into the hands of these deserving kids. And if you're wondering what a deserving student athlete is, these are the criteria right here. So they have to demonstrate some sort of financial need, meet minimum academic and athletic qualifications, and probably most importantly, they demonstrate a desire to play at the next level. And that's something that is sometimes a little bit more difficult depending on the athlete that you're working with, what their background is, what their history is, and just, building off my own personal experience, nobody in my family had ever been to college before, let alone graduate. So when I was going through the process, it was pretty confusing. And, I'd say to my mom, I want to go look at schools. So we drive out to the campus, we'd look at a couple buildings and turn around and head home. Now, any of us that have been around athletics for a while, or are just aware of what's going on, know that there's a lot more that goes into a college visit, especially when it comes to athletics, than just staring at a couple buildings. So we want to make sure that we get them this information, that they're able to use the tools and resources that we've developed, and it doesn't cost them anything. Okay, so again, if you go to the cps.team site, and I'll copy and paste that and put it over here in the chat. I keep losing all my menu bars. Chat. There you go, www.cps.team. Bookmark that site, put it on your desktop, share it with your coaches, share it with your assistant coaches, with your athletes, because it's kind of the one-stop shop for all things with this partnership. One thing that we're working on rebranding right now that you can also share with your coaches and with your team is the student athlete workbook. Many of you are familiar with the fact that our branding has recently changed since we're a part of the IMG Academy. So this does have some old branding. We'll get it updated, but what hasn't changed is the information that's in here. It's a real nice thing to print out or just share the PDF with those in your program, because it really breaks things down in an easy to digest way, and then also has hyperlinks to a more detailed explanation of each of these different categories. So again, that student athlete workbook can be found right there on the cps.team site. If you want to roster athletes to your team, to your program, to your school, you go up here to the top where it says find your school, and I put together a little spreadsheet that has it broken down, and for any of these that you look at, it's going to have the rostering page. Now, one important thing to point out, when the athletes are going through this, if they do fill it out and they click this box where it says, yes, I want NCSA to contact me about upgrading my account and unlock enhanced features and additional recruiting support, they will get a phone call from a member of our sales team. So if anybody comes back to you and says, NCSA called me, want me to buy something, that's the reason why right there. So if that happens, I just want to make you aware of it. If they don't check the box, they shouldn't receive a phone call. But either way, the important part of going through that process is those athletes will get verified, which will make them searchable by college coaches. They don't have to purchase anything, but it's really just like a introduction to the software and to the platform, and gives them a better understanding of how to use it, and then also what those memberships entail. If they go through that phone call and you want to nominate them for that all-in award, by all means, please do. I check the inbox for those nominations daily, so they'll get a call from a member of our team, onboarding them into that membership. So again, please make sure that when you have the chance, you're able to nominate those gals and girls that are deserving. So as far as other things on here, there are a few videos that, really kind of boil down what the All-In Award application is like, what our partnership with CPS, how that kind of, came to be back in 2018 when I was speaking at some of the coaches meetings. And then again, just links to the schools down here. So any questions on any of that stuff so far? I know I'm throwing a bunch at you pretty quickly. All right, so let's do this. We're gonna dive a little bit more into the athlete profile today. And you can see right here, I have a track athlete from Kenwood who was nominated by the coaching staff over there, Julius Washington. And Julius, again, he's a kid that has access to our tools via the All-In Award, has that MVP membership, but has really just done a fantastic job of building out his profile, reaching out to schools. He already has some visits lined up, and here you can see what his profile looks like. So he's updated video, which is a huge thing. Here's him competing last spring. Then down below, he has his GPA listed. One thing that I would add, and this is something that you could work with your kids on, is to make sure that they have their transcript as well. Because what happens is the coaches that are consuming this information, they're going to see someone that they like. They're going to want to have that transcript so they can bring it down to admissions. Can we get them in? Yes or no? If the answer is yes, they'll bring that down to financial aid. How much money can we give them? So if there's one thing or two things that I can impress upon you, it's one, make sure they have some video up, and two, make sure they have their transcript up. And just historical numbers on that, if they do put up their video, their profile is 12 times more likely to be viewed than those that don't. If they put up the transcript, that number jumps to 17 times more likely. So it makes a huge impact on it. You see kids with video and transcripts that are uploaded, that are being viewed and communicating with, 50, 80, 100 plus schools just by having those two things in order. If you look at what else Julius has going on here, I got to get back to the regular one. If you go to My Colleges, this is an area that's really going to help them stay organized. Will also help you out on the team edition side because that same list is going to show up there. But this shows all the schools that have viewed his profile, that have conducted searches that match the criteria that he has, any ones that he has sent an email to or have opened an email. And then once they go through the star rating and the evaluation, it's also going to give them this match percentage. So we typically say that anything north of 70% on that is going to be somewhat of a good fit, a school that they're going to want to explore a little bit further. And for each of those numbers, if you click on it, it's going to say why it was that percent. So when we're looking at Lancaster Bible College, athletically, Julius is right in that range, maybe a tick above some of the standards that they have. Academically, he's a 3.0, falls right within that. It looks like 2.7 to 3.3 range, which is standard for their school. Julius doesn't have any test scores updated, so that part's not going to show up. But then down below, Julius is open to looking at schools in Pennsylvania. He's interested in Division III programs. Seems to be the right size school for what he's looking for, but it doesn't have one of his majors. So we'll take a peek at that real quick. And then Christian colleges was on his list of those that he'd like to look into. So again, it matches that, which is how you get that high percent, that 83% match right there. If I go down a list, you'll see a mix of different division levels, Division I, Division II, NAIA, D3s. Don't see any junior, oh, there's a junior college that popped up right there, but a pretty good mix. And you can see how often a lot of these coaches are using it. Like Illinois Wesleyan has conducted 5 searches that match him. Eastern Washington, a couple searches. Rockford University, 4 searches. Madonna over in Michigan has conducted 2 searches. So all these schools are looking for athletes like them. And I would say one of the defining characteristics of the schools that are conducting those searches and why you see a lot of local ones is generally schools are looking for athletes that are within 5 hours. Statistics have shown that 85% plus of the kids end up within that range. So when schools are marketing to different kids to come there, usually they stay within kind of those thresholds to make it a little bit easier to have those conversations. Does that mean that doesn't happen outside of 5 hours? Absolutely not. It happens all the time, but the deck's a little bit stacked against those schools, and it's something that they probably don't have a lot of time trying to sell a kid on the program, unless they're going out to the beach or something. So they're going to kind of stick to their guns and stick to what's worked in the past, and that's why you see a lot of the local ones and not too many of the ones that are too far outside of there. If we switch this over to Julius's favorites, internet's working a little bit slow right now, but we'll get there. You can see now the search is a little bit more broad, less that are necessarily in region, but again, that's also going to affect this match percentage, because if we look at like Southern right here and I click on the match, It doesn't show anything too different, but my guess is one thing that also goes into that match percentage is a school's current roster and recruiting history. So knowing that Southern might have a predominantly full roster of kids that are from a little bit further south, that's going to impact that match rating. We'll look at Arkansas Pine Bluff. Yeah, it's not going to show from their end specifically what they're looking for, but you can see that Julius is open to all the things that match those preferences with that school and some other ones out there. So any questions so far? If I skip over to this Find Colleges tab, this is one of those things that is 100% free for any athlete, not just the ones that you've nominated for the All-In Award or those that have had a membership. This is open to anyone. And when I'm talking at schools or I'm working with, different kids, it's one thing that blows me away is that they'll spend hours doing Google searches and, trying to find schools that way when it just takes a couple clicks right here. So say that Julius is looking for, schools in Kentucky and Tennessee and Alabama, just throwing some different ones out there. Division III school that is pretty competitive and also has, I didn't click on the next one. Show majors also has, what do you look at? Also has architecture. You can see how that just impact went from 1,695 down to 245 schools. And then going back to those states, D3, competitive. I can't imagine there's going to be a ton. Oh, no results found. So our search was a little bit too specific there. We'll try again here. We'll just say everyone that is a Division III, pretty darn good. Show majors, has architecture. There we go. So there are 12 schools in the country that have architecture at the Division III level and are pretty competitive at the Division III level. A lot of ones out east, Amherst and Tufts and Carnegie Mellon. Case Western is a great school. I had a guy that played for me that ended up pitching there. Really talented kid. So you can see how easy that search was to conduct. Now, one thing that I've seen from families over the years is that the two areas where they generally make mistakes is one, they're not proactive enough, they don't start soon enough, but second is that they don't stay organized. And one really neat thing that I like about this is if I were to click on any of the schools, so we're looking at Rochester Institute of Technology, out in New York, that for each school that's on here, it's going to give me a dashboard. So I can keep notes on the school. If I go over to my progress right here, it takes me really through the whole progression chronologically from researching the school to completing their questionnaire, all the way down to committing and signing their letter of intent. Okay, so again, this is something that helps them stay organized, something that the parents are going to have access to, the guardians are going to have access to see to make sure that they're staying on track. And then you can also work with them on this piece of it if you so choose, or it's going to be the recruiting coach that's assigned to them through their MVP membership with that All-In Award. Okay, so again, a really easy way to stay organized and something that, a lot of them need help with. A lot of them are not accustomed to managing things in that fashion. So something that would really be beneficial to them. Skipping over to the team edition side. So before we were looking at what the athletes are seeing, now we're going to look at what you all see as coaches and athletic directors. This is our team edition product. So when you first log in here, you get a dashboard and it's going to show that all the active schools that have logged in today or yesterday in the sport that we've selected. So being that high schools have a lot of options when it comes to sports, you'll see the drop down up here so you can easily toggle through that. It's also going to show over to the right, all the updates from your athletes and the different schools that they've interacted with. This account that I'm in right now is the one with all the All-In awards that have received them so far from CPS. And you can see some of the names over here, like University of Michigan, opened an email from one of the athletes. You got Grove City College, community college out west, opened or viewed this athlete. So again, a wide mix of different things. Recent athlete logins over here. And then if I go over to activity, and again, this will be specific to your school, but you can see all the athlete activity, when they've logged in last, how complete their profile is, when they've last updated video, number of favorite schools, how many emails that they've sent. And then you can also send them a message right here or request that they take the TAP test, which is an athletic kind of personality leadership test that I think is a really neat feature. So you can go right down the list and you see, just the wide mix. Like this kid right here is favorited 490 schools. Let's take a look at Sydney, see what he's got going on. Yeah, you can see all these ones that say favorited. He's interested in a little bit of everything. But the cool thing is, say that we are looking at Morehouse and Sydney, wants to talk to the coaches up there. If I click on this little arrow off to the right, you can see that I have the option of recommending that school to him or actually contacting the coaches. And the nice thing is if I hit contact coaches, it should and could and would. I'll bring up my email here in a second. There you go. Yeah, so it's going to bring up all the coaches there at Morehouse that are, coaching track. It's going to blind copy or CC the athlete themselves. Normally with that initial one, I'll delete that just to try to get the info out to the coaches first and try to line something up. And then it's going to automatically put a link to their profile in there. So it saves you a lot of time and effort and work in finding the email address, copying and pasting the profile, doing all that other stuff. Puts it all in one place, and you can type in whatever. You're just in your normal email client here. Go ahead and back out of that. So any questions on that so far? And we're closing in on a half hour here, and I don't want to take too much of anybody's time. Are there any schools or athletes or sports or anything that any of you on the call right now would want to look at? Any players that you work with that we could dig into a little bit here as an example? Not everybody at once. So some other things in Team Edition, until somebody thinks of something here. If you go to colleges up top, you can search for any schools. We can, again, do a little bit of a filtered search. And then for any of the schools that I do pull up, it'll show a complete list of any athlete that is on any of my rosters that have interacted with that kid. So it's really neat to see how there's certain pipelines that are formed. And you can see here we're back at Lancaster Bible now, that it's going to show every coach, because this is a multi-sport account, but has all their contact information. And then again, the athlete down there. Let's do this. So we'll look at, scroll down here, Rockford. Rockford has a ton of interaction with the kids, which makes a lot of sense, kind of right in their wheelhouse. So go down here, you can see across all sports, these are all the different athletes that Rockford has interacted with, from receiving emails to sending emails to, following them along, favoriting their profile. Gives you a real good idea of what activity is going on there. So if there aren't any specific questions, what I am going to, really encourage you all to do once again is please, please, please nominate any athletes that you feel are deserving, and again, meet those criteria. So they have to have some sort of demonstrated financial need, and it's not like we're requiring paperwork or, some extreme sort of justification. Listen, if it's a single parent household, if, they're just trying to make ends meet, like, your kids, the ones that would need this and are going to use it. Now, if it's the kid of a doctor that makes $200,000-$300,000 a year, different story. Okay, so demonstrated financial need, the academic and athletic qualifications, doesn't again mean that they have to be in super high academic standing, but if they're a kid that's working hard in the classroom, getting their stuff done, or maybe it's the opposite end where they're maybe underachieving a little bit because they don't know what's out there, this might be the kick in the behind that they might all need to kind of take it to that next level. And I'm sure you've been telling them, like, listen, you get your stuff in order, you're going to have opportunities. Now they're going to be able to see firsthand how that's going to impact what opportunities are out there for them. And then a strong desire to play at the next level. Okay, so if they meet those criteria, I'll put a link to this one as well, even though it's on the cps.team site. I'm just going to direct link this in the Zoom box. Everyone got that there. So again, please do that. The second thing is remind any of the kids that you nominate that they do have to go through the application process. The application itself might take 10, 12 minutes, maybe 15 minutes top. But it's just something that we need to have on hand for the NCAA if they ever come back and say, hey, why did these kids receive these certain benefits? We have that paper trail and we're able to supply that to them. And then thirdly, as coaches, as athletic directors, please log in. Please log into your Team Edition account. And again, you can do that right up here through the coach login. Most of you have that account already created, but if you don't, it will just hit forgot password and that'll help you reset it. So that's really all I have for today. If there is anyone that needs help getting into their account, needs help with a specific student athlete, I'm going to hang out here because I know some people are kind of between end of the day and practices, and sometimes they hop on late. So if there's any way I can help any of you out, please let me know. I'll be hanging out right here. I'd love to do a little, case study or run through if you have a kid in mind. And if you don't, you're free to leave. And I just want to say I appreciate you taking the time this afternoon to spend it with me, spend it with us. So any of the three you left on here, have a kid that you want to look at, or a school, want to look at your own Team Edition account? All right, well, I will, I'll go ahead and think you all have it, but put my email, actually put my cell phone down here too. Sometimes texting is easier than an email. And I also coach my son's, he's 7.5 years old, but he's playing basketball and flag football and baseball. So I'm coaching his teams, and then I'm the head baseball coach at Harper College out in Palatine. So we all know those coaching schedules get a little crazy. So if you want to call me on my cell or shoot me a text, feel free to do that. But if nobody has anything else, again, you're free to hop off. get on with your day, and I appreciate y'all.